And we are back. This is Hasbro's continued coverage of San Diego Comic-Con 2024. We're coming to you live from the Hasbro Pulse live streaming studio. I'm your host, Jordan Hembrough. Thanks again. Well, do you like G.I. Joe? Do you like Transformers? You're in the right place. We've got a full packed slate here today. If you don't know these gentlemen, you soon will. Please welcome Mr. Robert Kirkman, co-creator of Invincible. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Very excited to be here.
Not just that, you're co-creator of the actual Energon Universe, as well as these other fine gentlemen with you. Sean Mackiewicz, publisher of the Energon Universe. Daniel Warren Johnson, writer, artist on the Transformer Energon Universe. Mr. Tom Reilly, artist of Duke, G.I. Joe.
Hello.
And last but not least, Mr. Josh Williamson, writer of Joe, Duke, G.I. Joe, and all the other good titles. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You gentlemen enjoying San Diego Comic-Con so far?
Love it.
Yeah?
Always love San Diego, having a great time.
Yeah, everyone?
It's my first time here, and it's been a lot of fun, yeah.
Is it really your first time?
Yeah.
Oh my God, so you're like a newbie.
Yeah, I had no idea where I was going to come here. I walked the opposite direction to get here, and I had to run back to the booth. So.
Did you just walk around going, can someone point me to Comic-Con?
No, I was just running into people trying to get here, and I made it, thankfully.
Fantastic. So
I think if you just lay down, the crowds will pull you to Comic-Con.
That's right, Comic-Con or bust. Well, are you enjoying it so far?
Definitely. It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Well, we are here today actually talking about and celebrating the Energon Universe, which is a culmination of G.I. Joe, Transformers, and of course, Void Rivals. How do you guys feel about working on it? Why don't you kick it off, Robert? Tell me about the process to create something like this.
I mean, I think these characters are an absolute joy to work on, and I think that they're so iconic, and they're a huge part of so many people's lives. I think that, for me, growing up with Transformers and G.I. Joe, I mean, it's been an inspiration for a lot of the work that I've done in my career, and to be able to come in and do a thing like Void Rivals and contribute to the Energon Universe and kind of put a fresh coat of paint on these characters and do some interesting and exciting new things with them is super exciting. Like, contributing to the legacy of these amazing characters that Hasbro's done so much with is just a tremendous joy.
Tom, you worked on Duke, G.I. Joe. You were the artist for those.
Yes.
What was it like actually working on iconic characters like that? Did you go back and look at all the legacy artwork? Did you look back at the drawings that that was around for years and years beforehand?
Yeah, there's a rich visual history for G.I. Joe, not only in the toys, but in the comics. Yep. The Real American Hero series has been going for 50 years now, 40? Sure. Incredible series. So TV shows, movies, all these forms of media have great...
And you brought your own spin to it. I know a lot of artists kind of, they fold in all the legacy elements and they put their own unique spin on it as well. Did you do that?
Yeah, for sure. You can draw from different aspects of things that you like from all these different mediums. Right now, the classified line has a lot of great designs, so usually that's the base of what I start with, and then I'll pull from other things that I like from other media. Yep. And then put my own spin on some of these things too. So it's been a fun challenge. It's a lot of fun.
You wrote on Joe and Duke as well.
Yeah.
What did you? I mean, did you go back and read the old comics as from years ago to sort of get up on the storylines, or
no?
What went into the process? Okay, what went out of the process of writing just the new stuff? It was all brand new.
No, I've always been a fan of G.I. Joe my whole life. There was never a moment when I wasn't, and so it was already in my head. It was something I had, even before I got the job, I had been thinking about it, about if I ever got an opportunity to work on G.I. Joe, what I would do with it.
Right.
Thankfully, the stuff I was thinking about aligned with what they were already thinking about when we started talking. But for me, I went back and I started with the cartoon, and I started rewatching it again, and I rewatched it many times at this point. A big influence for me is G.I. Joe the movie, which if you read the book, you can see that. And then when it comes to the comics, I definitely went back and looked at the comics. And actually one of the things that I really looked at a lot was Larry Hama's original file cards that he wrote for all the characters.
Oh, yeah.
That was something I always looked at as those are the core of these characters. Strip everything away, that is something.
So the packaging, remember the packaging when we were kids? You cut them out?
Yeah, so I went back and read those a lot, and that was definitely something I looked into. And even with the comics, it was funny when we started working on it. I did have a moment of maybe I should read these, and then I did go and look, and then I realized as I was looking, I was like, oh, I did read all of this. I have read all of this, So I had to go back and reread it all. I knew it. But really for me, it was a lot of the cartoon, and just looking at the toys really what influenced me the most.
Fantastic. I want to switch over to a lot of the Transformers stuff now and everything. And I do have Daniel with me. You're the writer and the artist on Transformers.
It's true.
And I understand, first of all, congratulations are in order. You won 2 Eisners last night.
I won 2 Eisners last night.
Congratulations on that. That's a massive, massive accomplishment, achievement. You must be proud.
I am really proud.
Are you guys proud? You look overjoyed,
Very
by
proud.
the way.
Very proud.
So for everyone at home that might not be in the industry, why don't you explain to all of us what the Eisner Award is and what it's given out for?
It's like the Oscars of comics.
It is the Oscars of comics.
You know, I was telling my my aunt that has no idea about any comic book stuff whatsoever. You know, I'm telling her Oscars of comics. You know, and I basically said there's nowhere to go from here but down.
But down. But it must be a great weight off your shoulder now, though.
I got to interrupt. I think that the Oscars are the Eisners of movies.
Yes. So there you go. So you were the writer, and you worked on the Transformer line, the Transformer comics as well too. Did you play with the toys as a child?
I did.
You did?
I only had 2. I had Grimlock.
Okay.
I had the Optimus Prime.
Okay.
And this is in the early 90s, so I was born in 87, so I actually missed the original airing of the cartoon. But they would play the cartoon, the G1 cartoon on reruns after school. And I would always turn on the TV and try and catch it, and it was the best. But I only had 2 Transformers. They were pretty expensive growing up.
Do you still own them?
I have the Optimus Prime.
Okay.
And the Grimlock finally broke, I think, when I was in college.
So you've got fond memories when you're writing the new ones of your childhood.
I do.
Do you ever, as a writer, any of you guys creating the stuff now, do you ever call upon your childhood and things or you might have gone through either playing or any kind of experience as a child with the toys or any of the properties as a child to influence what you do now?
I mean, every minute of working on this is channeling those times when we were kids, playing with these toys, writing stories, creating things with these toys. I mean, I think it's, you know, something that has kind of like put us on the path that we're on creatively is the time that we spent with these toys. So I think we're all drawing upon those times and like using that to like energize us in a lot of like really cool ways. But yeah, when I'm working on Void Rivals, I'm always thinking about those, like laying on my stomach in my bedroom, playing with all my different Transformers and G.I. Joe toys, and you know, just thinking about the iconic images from the cartoons and the movies, and it's all an amazing source of inspiration.
Yeah. Sean, you've been kind of quiet, probably because you don't have a microphone.
No, I was just mostly thinking about which toys I had Kiss,
I was gonna, you feel
the
the
other
same
toy,
way?
and just like what was going on. So
Okay.
that was more Star Wars. So let's carry on.
When I was
Transformers growing up, because you
yeah,
are
so-
working on the Energon Universe.
Yeah, I had an older brother, so we both kind of accumulated Transformers and G.I. Joe. So it's very natural. I mean, when the opportunity, Robert explained early on what our take was, it was like, oh yeah, we grew up doing this. Like, this makes complete sense. I've always wanted to see this. Yeah, I love it.
You know, it's so funny because these iconic IPs are so personal to all of us and so many other people. When you gentlemen create something new, when you create a comic like this that you know people from around the world are going to read and appreciate, how much thought goes into, or does any thought go into, you start thinking about what do these people want to see? Like when you create something, do you say, I wonder if people are going to want to see this? And does that ever creep into the creative process?
I think that our conception of the Energon universe was to, one, make sure we treated these characters respectfully, because a lot of people have a lot of personal attachment to them.
Yep.
They've been following them consistently for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
But we also want to make sure that lapsed fans, such as myself, we reminded them of why they love these characters, and then people that have never engaged with them before can come at them new, like Duke, and be like, who is this guy? I love this guy. I want to see more adventures. So it really is targeting all of readership, and I think that's been very successful so far.
Yeah, so it's more than just giving fan service to the fans. It's actually creating compelling backstories and giving all the characters an arc, a series storyline that everyone can get into. You feel the same way?
I do. It's kind of like you have these expectations, I'll call them. So I'm not necessarily trying to think about what the fans want. I'm not thinking about it, but
Sure.
I'm definitely thinking about what the fans expect, and trying to either subvert or kind of use that context to my own storytelling power up, I suppose.
And when you're there, do you actually say, this is going to get me an Eisner? No, I'm joking. Josh, you feel the same way? I mean, you've written on a lot of iconic Joe.
I mean, I definitely look at all this stuff. I mean, we're fans too.
Yeah.
You know, so we definitely factor that into our planning of it, like what would we love, and we had conversations about that early on, where it was like, just looking at this stuff and being like, what did we love then? You know, what parts of this were we fans of? What did we love? What were our expectations? What are things that we're looking at? What will get us excited? You know, and it's like, well, as we're working on it, what are things like, if I was looking at this not as working on it, but from the outside, what would I get pumped about?
Yeah.
You know, so I definitely factor that into some of it. Yeah.
So do you guys actually think, and I'll ask this to Tom first, do you think that fans make the best creators?
It depends.
It's emotional attachment.
I'm going to tell on myself here a little bit. I'm a little bit outside the encyclopedic knowledge of these people here when it comes to
He's
G.I.
calling us
Joe and
old.
Transformers.
He's calling us
No,
old
that's
right
not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm
Men of
trying
a
to
certain
say.
age group.
But
I don't have their aged wisdom.
Yes.
just so it depends.
Yeah.
Going back to your question about fans and
Yeah.
what old fans expect and making new fans, like what Sean said, I think that's maybe one of the coolest parts of this whole thing, is being able to reach people who maybe have not had any feelings towards the properties before and make them fans. Because these have been around for a long time, you know, and for this to be the thing that finally gets them interested is very cool.
I like that. So you're
Yeah.
actually, you know, and by your own admission, you're a little bit younger than everyone else, so you might not have as much exposure as these guys did.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps you a little bit? Look at it at a different perspective?
Especially when we're trying to start something new here, something different.
Sure.
My perspective might be a little bit less biased towards things that came before.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and like what Josh said, I'm not really trying to go back and read the storylines that have been told before, because
Sure.
then I'll subconsciously probably draw from that in my own work, and I'm trying to, you know, usher in something new with Josh and everybody here. So,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You guys had a big panel last night. How did that go?
I think it went pretty
Good
good.
time?
Really fun.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. See the
What's-
response to the books is really great. I mean, hearing people just like that, the vibe of the room was so good. Like you could tell they were really loving what we're doing.
I was feeding
That
off
was
it.
great. Yeah, for sure.
And Comic-Con is the place to interact with the fans and to come back and check in and, you know, like get you know, first-hand information on, you know, how they're feeling about things and how excited they are about things, and it's really it's like our yearly report card in a way, and so far we're getting pretty high marks.
Yeah.
You know, I like that you touched upon something really quick, and it's something that I hear many times when I interview folks. You said you touch in with the fans, you get their response. So I want to ask you guys, and you can go around the table, when you're in the creative process and you've got something on the table, and you're like, this is our vision, how often, or will it at all, change based on what you might hear from fan reaction? Do you ever go, for lack of a better term, do you ever go back to the drawing board after fans have said something and say, you know what, let me change that a little bit? Let's go to the Eisner. Let's go to the Eisner winner and see what he
Want to
says.
talk about that, Daniel?
Oh, heck yeah, I do.
This is it. This is the place.
Yeah,
Welcome to
so
Therapy
when,
Couch.
When we first announced issue 1 of Transformers,
Yeah.
People were really excited, and part of the way that we hyped up the book was we had a reveal of each Autobot and Decepticon that was going to make up the first cast, the first arc cast.
How'd that go for you?
It was great
Okay.
until Rumble got revealed, Blue Rumble, which apparently he was called Frenzy, and the show got it messed up and everything.
Okay.
The online discourse ensued, and I learned just how passionate these Transformers fans are.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
Respect. But at the same time, my mentions just blew up, and I was like, I don't really like this. And the first time that Frenzy actually shows up in issue 5, he does die.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it does. So the fans do have an impact on
Oh,
what
yes.
you do.
Watch what you say to me.
Do you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, sure. No. No, I mean, I don't know. I think that what Daniel talks about, subverting expectations, I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Fans often want things, but sometimes those things that they want aren't necessarily the thing that a book needs or a series needs
Yeah.
or whatever. And so it's kind of our job to know, okay, they want that. They'll be even more excited if we give them this instead.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is the most valuable thing we can get from the fan reaction. They give us a roadmap to envision because of what they want and what they're asking for. But if we were to say, yes, you get exactly that, they'd go, wait a minute, I knew this was coming. This is expected. This is not great. But if you take that and you veer off of it in wild ways that they could never expect because they're expecting this, well, then you have something pretty special.
Sounds
I
like
love
you're trying to
surprises.
feed my kid when I try and feed my kid broccoli.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love surprises, right? Like I like surprise people's work and the stuff I'm watching or reading. I like when things are surprises and feel unexpected, unpredictable.
Sure.
And I feel like, even my own work and everything, I look for that. And I feel like the Energon universe was built from a surprise. You know, it was like the End of Void Rivals. Like people didn't know that was coming, and then when they finally did, it was a surprise. And I think that if you always try to do what everyone wants, you're going to lose that. You're going to lose those surprises that comes from the unexpected. It comes from the unpredictable. Right. And I think we do talk about that a lot. We don't want it to be exactly what came before. You know, you want to do new.
So you guys are actually walking a very fine line. I mean, you want to do what the fans want, but you want to stay true to your creative vision as well.
Yeah.
I feel for you. I mean, it must be rough.
We don't need any sympathy.
Yeah, do not feel for us. We are having the time of our lives.
Oh,
It's pretty wasted
So much fun. It's so much fun.
the Energon, the comics in front of us are some of the top selling in the world, all over the world. Do you guys feel the pressure to do better? Do you feel the weight saying, look, this is great, we got to keep it up. We got to keep up the quality, keep up the vision, the good storylines. Every creator does that.
There's always pressure with every single new issue that you do of like, oh, you know, I got to make sure this one lives up to everything that came before it with every series that any of us has ever done. I feel a weird sense of like relief to a certain extent because I know that we have a lot of really amazing, far-reaching plans that will go on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And to hear how well these books are doing, you get that sense of like, oh my gosh, we're going to get to do that thing.
You're on the right path.
We're going to get to introduce this
you're on
character.
the right
We're going
path.
to get to that story. We're going to be able to do that thing that no one's going to expect. And it makes you even that much more excited, and it just really puts you in a place where, like, the level of excitement you have for this starts to dwarf what you had before, and it's really a great place to be.
Pressure can also be a good thing. When you're working with amazing artists and writers who are doing incredible work, it makes you want to do that much better work. So everyone kind of builds off of each other's skill sets.
When he was winning the Eisner last night,
Yeah.
and he was up on, I told you this last night, when he was up on the stage, I was watching him and I was like, God damn it. Like,
Yeah.
I have to rewrite this stuff, and I gotta, Daniel.
You were there. I was in my hotel room
you were a
putting
smart
needles in my Daniel Warren Johnson voodoo doll.
No, that was the first thing I said to him when I saw him afterwards. I was like, you.
I hope it doesn't sound weird to say, but I obviously want to do a good job.
Yeah.
But I kind of come from a background of doing my own stories and my own characters and trying to get that to the finish line.
Sure.
So when you're trying to get people and comic book shops and just, the world to believe in the stories that you've made up from your own mind,
Yeah.
the amount of work and like emotional like wreckage that can happen trying to do that, this is like a vacation.
You love it.
It's amazing.
I want to touch upon, because, Tom, you mentioned this earlier about working with, the writers and the artists and everything. I want to touch upon the collaborative effort that goes on in to the artists and the writers working together. How often do you guys actually feed off of each other? I mean, will you guys work together and say, I'm writing this, and you'll be like, oh, I can draw that, or I can't draw that, or is it totally collaborative, ongoing process?
Everything. I mean, that's what
Let the artist talk.
With this. Yeah.
Let the artist talk.
You mentioned
Yeah.
you asked how often we collaborate, and I would say probably every day.
Yeah.
And Josh he writes amazing things in the script,
Right.
and they're super fun to draw. There are times where I will tweak some things here and there, and he's totally cool with
Yep.
me doing that sort of thing, either to spin the narrative a certain way or to give a scene a certain type of feel
Yeah.
that is a bit different that's in the script. And
Josh, when you write, do you write for the visual medium? Do you write saying this is going to look great? Or do you just write the best story you can write? And let Tom worry about everything else.
Visual mediums. I mean, that's what I have to see it. Like, the way I write is I have to see it in front of me as I'm writing. And I know it's not going to be exactly what I'm seeing.
Yep.
But that's how I approach it. I have to be able to see it in my head as I'm going. And then, I'm very much, like, the visuals is the important part. And every time someone turns a page, no matter what dialogue, I don't want to turn the page and go, oh, wow, like, every time. Like, that's how my head is. And so I think about that. And then even when we're with him, like, because, like, we talk stuff out ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking about him while I'm working, but it's a visual medium, so I'm very much thinking about the visual of it. Yeah, I do think about story, but it's all together. I mean, it is, the visual is the story.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. I mean, at their best, comics is a game of pitches and home runs. The writer's sitting there going, okay, I'm going to throw this image this way. It's going to be real cool. I can't wait to see it. And then the artist is just like, boom. And then you watch that thing soar into the stands, if I can drive this metaphor into the ground.
Yeah.
And you get things back.
What's happening
It's so loud at Comic-Con, we often can't hear each other at this
barely hear you
interview.
guys.
Yeah, so if we do weird things, that's why. But no, I mean, working on Void Rivals with Lorenzo De Felici, it is a matter of like just throwing him absolutely bizarre things, because there's a lot of new vehicles, a lot of new characters, a lot of new things that we're introducing to the Energon universe, and we're working on those things together, and they're just kind of coming out of Lorenzo's brain whole cloth, and it's just absolutely amazing to see what he's able to do. So for the writers that aren't actually drawing stuff, and you're working with Jorge on the new issues of Transformers, right? It's just this amazing thing of like, you sit in front of this blank screen, you write some stuff, and you hope it's going to turn out well, and then these artists make us look like geniuses.
Beautiful.
And we get to sit back and go, yeah, that was us.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
I've also kind of was Robert has been kind of been the big, large energon in the sky, if you will.
Oh,
Sorry.
big, large Energon.
Well, so really quick,
We get that a shirt for you.
in the second arc of Transformers, so after this arc is finished,
Yeah.
Our artist Jorge Corona came on to take over the art duties for me. And I really was having trouble how to fit Beachcomber, one of my favorite Transformers, into the story. So at New York Comic Con last year, I was riffing with Robert where we could put him in the story, and so that was really cool to go back and forth. And then, of course, when I actually wrote this scene of Beachcomber existing like on the moon,
Yep.
I wrote like four sentences. It's not a lot, and he turned it into absolute gold. I mean, thank you, Jorge.
I love it. So, looking towards the future, all these separate stories are going to combine into the G.I. Joe mainline story, right? Why don't you, Sean, because you're quiet, take me through that process.
My head isn't
Take me
quiet.
through the vision that you guys all have for this.
No, I mean, well, when we first spoke with Hasbro, we kind of laid out roughly the first 18 to 24 months.
Right.
And we've added some pieces in, and some of that was additional G.I. Joe miniseries, like Destro was not part of the original plan.
Sure.
So all those G.I. Joe miniseries kind of come to a head in the G.I. Joe mainline, but then pieces from Cobra Commander, like Pythona from Cobra La, she shows up in Void Rivals coming up this fall.
Right.
We have some stuff coming up in Transformers that will feed back into those stories. And notice...
You plan out quite far. 24 months, you say? 24, 48
I mean,
years.
some of us plan 24 hours in advance.
Perfect. Yeah.
Some of us...
Don't look at me.
24 years.
yeah.
There have only been a few instances of me flying by the seat of my pants
Right.
with Vaseline on.
Okay.
It's also important
When
for
people
us
tell you they like Transformers and then you kill them, that's
Yeah.
why.
that people new to it can pick up Duke and understand exactly what's going on with that character. They come to an ending and they get a full experience, but then they can dive into the other stories and get a fuller experience to see the whole universe. Eventually, you might see more crossover, but it's still, like Dan said, we come from creator-owned original comics.
Yeah.
So we're bringing that passion and that craft to existing IP, and I think it just shows that we care and love these characters, as well as having some of the best writers and artists in the world working on these.
I love it. All right, last question. I know you gentlemen are very, very busy. I know that your comics are some of the most widely read all over the world. One last question for you. Fans love it. Everyone loves it. Care to give us a little tease of what might be coming up in the future?
How do you turn this mic off?
Yeah. Okay. This is where they walk out. Well,
I was just going to say more Skuxoid.
okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I'm going to say 2 words.
Yeah.
Piss tank.
Okay. Anything from Robert?
Look, more of the same. Everything
same.
that you got in the first year of the Energon universe, all the exciting reveals, all the new characters coming when you least expect it, the stories going in interesting directions that you couldn't have predicted. We're going to be doing more of that, but bigger, better,
Bigger, better,
cooler, awesome, faster. It's
I love
gonna
it.
be great.
I love it.
More color.
I love it. Robert
pages,
Kirkman, Sean
more books.
Mackiewicz, Daniel
Yeah.
Warren Johnson, Tom Reilly, Josh Williamson. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for stopping by today. We'll be right back. This is Hasbro's
Snake Eyes.
continued coverage, San Diego Comic-Con. More coming up. Thanks so much.
Thank you.